Hey YouTube, welcome back to Atlantic City. I was having a discussion this morning, just in comments, on David Bowie with a one of the subscribers who I think was gentleman scholar, and we were discussing Bowie, and he turned me on to a video, by the way, which was excellent. From Bowie's later career. It's really good stuff. I really have a hard time even expressing what a transcendent figure Bowie was in my life. I was fortunate enough that I was about 12 years old or so when Ziggy Stardust came out. And so, Bowie was a part of my upbringing from the time I was, even old enough to just be aware of anything. He was just amazing. From the gender fluid early part of his career, where the personalities just kept changing from album to album. The artistic chances that he took. And, when you stop and figure just how much ground Bowie covered in that lifetime of work, where he went from this personality-driven alter ego of his early career, the hunky-dory period, right into Ziggy Stardust, into Aladdin Sane, into Diamond Dogs. That career alone could have sustained him for his entire lifetime if he had chosen it to. And he was never happy just being that. He constantly reinvented through his entire career. I guess the Plastic Soul period of Young Americans, and the crooner period of Station to Station, which went right into the Berlin period with Brian Eno, which transcended into the Tin Machine, which just, it went from, he literally covered as much ground as any human being has probably ever covered, ever. And did it all while maintaining this elusive secrecy about who the man really was. And you have no idea, in today's world of Facebook everything, where you kind of know every aspect about modern entertainers, and every portion of their life is somehow covered in a video or something, or a YouTube or a post or a something. The mystery is gone. I don't know that anyone will ever have a career in this era where an entertainer will actually be larger than life, the way that entertainers sort of were in that 70s period, where they could really keep their private lives private and only let you see what they wanted you to see. I just don't think that people possess that quality anymore. And I was very fortunate to grow up in that period and have Bowie be just a really important part of my upbringing. I happened to mention in a previous video that it literally may have been David Bowie that kept this weird kid alive through his teenage years. And there's a debt that I'm sure many people have that could never be repaid. And Bowie was more than a musician, always. Fashion, poetry, and just sort of putting an eyeball on what the modern world was and could be. He covered a lot of area, and I was going to try to respond to Gentleman Scholar in the comments, and there was just too much. It was too much to write. I was very fortunate in that the fact I was coming out of Canada as a truck driver the night that Bowie passed away. And when I crossed over the bridge in Detroit to come back to the US, I was coming south on I-75. And Bowie had literally been dead for a few hours at this point. It was probably 8 o'clock in the evening. And all along I-75, in billboards that faced the southbound lane only, all of these billboards were up in tribute to Bowie. And I was just utterly moved by it. The billboards were from different phases of Bowie's career, and it was sort of the empty Bowie's head without a face on it, maybe with the hair in the picture, and the outline of Bowie's face, but there was no face in the picture. And then along with that, there was a quote from a Bowie lyric that sort of represented that time period. And there probably was about 6 or 7 or 8 of them along I-75 between the city of Detroit and the Ohio border. And I just remember driving down. I couldn't stop to take pictures. I mean, I'm literally on a freeway in a semi, so I couldn't stop to take any pictures of this. But I remember just rolling down the highway and just tears coming down my face. And I called my son, and we were talking as I was driving down the road. And I just remember saying to my son that, that the death of David Bowie, I think, hit me harder than the death of my parents. Which is a really odd thing, but it did. I really missed Bowie, and still do. I think it took me a couple of years after his death. I've only really gotten through the Black Star album and watched the videos that he put up for Black Star and Lazarus really in the last year. Like, I just couldn't bring myself to watch them. He was an amazing figure in pop culture for the 20th century, the likes of which I would never expect to see again. And I know that there's a lot of Bowie fans out there who, might appreciate a little commentary on him. And I wanted to put this video out, like I said, just to respond to the conversation that I was having this morning. It's just too much to write down. No one's going to sit and read through 6 paragraphs of my rambling nonsense. They might sit through 8 or 10 minutes of a video just to see if they can get something out of it. But to all the people out there who remember Bowie in a very fond way, I hope that this conversation just reminds you of just what an amazing talent he was, and what a mark he left. I don't think that there'll ever be another one. Nothing even close. Like I said, I think the modern culture sort of has a lot to do with that. And he really was. He was that 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million, 1 in 100 million that stood in a very rarefied air. So, anyway, just a couple thoughts on David Bowie. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon back up on the boardwalk. Bye, YouTube.